Bringing Lacey Home. Written by Kody Boye. Narrated by Kate Allure. "Are you sure you want to do this?" my father asks. "No one would fault you if you stopped here." I look him straight in the eyes, try my hardest not to tremble, offer a nod and say, "I'm sure, Dad. I have to do this. I made a promise." "Okay," he says, a sad, faraway look on his face. "Good luck, Britney." It takes only a moment for me to pull the respirator over my mouth. Then, a moment later, I fall backward into the deep blue sea. I have searched for her for exactly 73 days. I know this number like the back of my hand. Understand its significance as if it is instrumental to life itself. I do not need a calendar to remember the day she was lost, nor a reminder of the implications that finding her would bring. Though most who would stumble upon her would wonder who she was, I could take one look and know her instantly. I would know it was Lacey just by looking at her bones. Out here, on the coast of California, people who have drowned will initially sink before they return to the surface. Left long enough, the body will then sink to the ocean floor once more to be consumed by fish and crabs and sea lice. Only bones will be left behind. This is what I have been searching for this whole time. Her bones. Lacey's bones. My best friend's bones. The bones that will give me closure and allow me to truly mourn the friend I have lost at sea. I still have guilt over not being able to find her, to help her, to save her. This is my atonement. To find her now after she has been lost for so long. As I descend into the water, within which I have come to feel more at home than I ever have before, I take note of the life around me. First the tropical fish, who are skirting away from my intruding form. Then the sea anemones, who flare in response to my sudden entrance. The crabs along the coral lift their eyes to view my sudden advance, and though I cannot possibly know what a crab must think, I imagine they must consider me an angel, an otherworldly figure in their midst. But I am no angel I know, nor am I some otherworldly figure meant to do something impossible, something life-changing. I am just a girl who survived an accident and has been haunted by it since. Though Lacey's ghost has never made itself known to me, I understand that she has always been with me, just waiting for me to bring her home. The concept of finding her, of being able to truly bring her to rest, gives me pause. Understanding the finality that may occur, I stop halfway down and am forced to gain my bearings before I continue. For this, I allow myself a few seconds to acclimate to my surroundings. I lower my eyes to the seabed below. Then, slowly, I begin to swim. It is an act that is as defiant as it is graceful, as breathtaking as it is exhilarating. The fins upon my feet propel me forward. The respirator affixed to my mouth channels oxygen into my lungs. The goggles shield my eyes, allowing me to see the world for what it truly is. Beautiful. But beauty, I have discovered, is often not appreciated until it is left behind, or lost, or forcibly taken from us. Some would find that it is not cherished until it is truly gone. I once told myself that Lacey and I would be friends forever. Now, I know it was never meant to be. I fight the urge to cry, knowing that I cannot afford to dawdle. I continue to make a sweep of the jagged coral that cuts along the ocean floor like an artery running along the ocean floor. I know I will find them. I know I will find Lacey Anderson's bones. We should have never gone out when we knew a storm could possibly roll in. As skilled kayakers, we should have known that paddling during high winds was likely to result in tragedy. But we told ourselves that we would be fine, that everything would be okay, and we disembarked with only one thing in mind, to see the coastline in all its glory. It had begun simply enough. Rowing from shore was second nature. Idling in the water at the onset of an incoming storm should have been just the same. But the tides, they'd been coming. And with them, the winds of change. One moment, the waves were tolerable. The next, the swells became too much to bear. I'd tried to keep a level head, to keep myself from overreacting. Lacey, however, had panicked. She'd started rowing against my cries to wait for my help. Then, just like that, we'd flipped. In the ensuing panic, we'd plunged into the water. In the chaos that followed, I had managed to slip from beneath the kayak and emerge from beneath the tumultuous waters. I twisted my head one way, then the other, had called, "Lacey!" in the highest voice I could manage. But Lacey was nowhere to be seen. I dived back under, palmed the underside of the kayak, tried with every fiber of my being to discover where she was. But no matter what I did, and no matter how hard I pleaded, Lacey was nowhere to be seen. She was gone. The blur of events that followed still haunts me. Even now, as I comb the coral for any sign of her person, I struggle to make sense of what exactly had happened to my best friend. The Coast Guard had speculated that Lacey had hit her head when she tried to come up for air. It would have happened quickly, they said, and would likely have been painless. I'd tried to argue against that logic, had said that there was no way that that could have happened because I had still been there, had still been looking. But I realized not long after that I was lying to myself. The storm had lasted for roughly 12 hours. And during that time, I watched from my parents' beachside home, not just hoping, but praying that somehow, some way, Lacey would emerge from the water. I'd sat next to a burning candle, my head down, my hands grasped in prayer, and asked God to bring her home. "Please," I'd begged, "let my best friend be okay." 73 days later, I am still searching. "Promise me something," Lacey had said on her birthday, not long before she went missing. "Promise you what?" I had asked. We'd been eating ice cream on the pier and looking out at the dolphins as they pursued a school of fish throughout the shallows. I remember that she'd had a chocolate cone, me a vanilla sundae with a banana, on account of the stomachache I'd been having at the time. I told her I'd come to the pier regardless because I wouldn't miss her birthday for the world, even if I couldn't go to the party. But the faraway look in her eyes seemed to indicate that something was on her mind. "Lacey?" I'd asked before lowering my cone to consider her. "Is something wrong?" "No," she replied with a shake of her head. "Nothing's wrong. It's just..." "What?" She'd closed her eyes, sighed, had said, "If something was ever to happen to me..." "What are you talking about?" I'd asked. "Promise me you would never stop looking." Lost in the throes of anxiety and question, I'd been able to do little more than stare. "Promise me," Lacey had said when I found myself unable to speak. "Promise me, Britney. Promise me you'd look for me." "Lacey," I started to say. She'd returned her eyes to the ocean. "Do you know something I don't?" I asked. She hadn't responded. She'd simply continued to eat her ice cream. That conversation had taken place roughly 3 days before the accident. 3 days before our lives had been turned upside down by the disappearance of Lacey Anderson. She'd seemed so honest, so sure of her request that, at the time, I'd assumed she had some sort of foresight on the matter, had been witness to some kind of premonition. Then the accident happened, and everything had changed. My parents crying, the Andersons grieving, the police investigating. I'd talked to so many people, had done everything in my power to try and find Lacey's body. Even now, as I patrol this strip of coral for what feels like the 1,000th time, I am still searching, even after others have given up. 2 months and 13 days have passed since the kayaking accident, and not once have I thought about leaving Lacey behind. The waters surrounding me are reminiscent of an embrace, a declaration, a promise that if I only continue to search, Lacey Anderson will be found. Deep down, something tells me that today will be the day. Yet, I have been convinced of this each day, every day. Every single day since the accident had taken place. I cannot count how many times I have dived down, how much oxygen I have brought to fill my tanks, how much energy I have expended in an effort to find my best friend. I have braved treacherous waters, have maneuvered around poisonous fish, have faced the dangers of coming into close contact with sharks. At some points, I have wondered if the search was fruitless, but then I remembered my promise and began to search anew. Because that's what friends do, I think, as I continue to swim along the ocean floor. They keep their promises. For the past week, my father has taken me out beyond the crag of rock that is known as the Watchman's Point. It was here, 73 days ago, that the accident had occurred, where the kayak had flipped over, where our lives had irreversibly changed. And though a part of me knows that finding her here is slim, it would be fitting for me to discover her remains where it all began. I swing the flashlight in an arc before me, trace the array of red and yellow coral, and the white seafloor below with its light. I allow myself to feel hope, and here I force myself to pray. God, I think, please, if I am meant to find Lacey's bones, please, just give me a sign. Something winks from the bottom of the ocean floor. I blink, bring myself to a halt. Swing the flashlight back in the same direction. Something winks at me again. A sliver of remorse fills me. I think, no. Then I begin to descend. My heart hammers. Blood bleeds within my ears. Beneath the ocean's waves, the world is as silent and remote as I imagine the surface of the moon. It is eerily fitting, considering what I can now see. Nestled at the bottom of the ocean floor, along a snarl of coral, is a skeleton. Though a part of me wants to believe that it isn't her, that it isn't my best friend, the glass beads around the skeleton's neck give her away. I told myself that I would know Lacey anywhere. Even by her bones, I think. Here, within the ocean's unfathomable depths, in the shadow of Watchman's Point, I stare upon the remains of my best friend, where no one but me and God and the world he'd created can see me cry. Slowly, I lift my head to the sky and offer up one final prayer. Thank you, I say. A moment later, I rise to the surface, and like a whale breaking water, emerge with a gasp, a cry. My father calls, "Britney! Britney!" And I call back, "I've found her!" "What?" he calls, the distance too far to determine his emotion, whether it be question or even disbelief. The boat draws forward, slowly, cautiously. When it comes to rest a few feet away, my father grinds the engine to a halt and leans forward to consider me. "What did you say?" my father asks. "Britney, what did you—" "I found her," I tell him. "I found Lacey." "But, Britney, how can you be—" "Our friendship necklace," I say. "The ones we've worn since we were kids. The ones that had the glass beads." "You're sure?" my father starts. But before he can finish, I offer a nod and turn my head to look back into the waters below. My father turns his head to regard the radio, lets loose a monumental sigh. He says, "I'll call it in." "Okay," I reply. All I can think as I absently listen to him call the Coast Guard is about what I found. I kept my promise, I tell myself as I turn my head to look down at the water. I kept my promise, Lacey. Just like I said I would. "It's time to bring you home," I say.